At the NFL trade deadline, the Miami Dolphins sit at a 2-6 record, a place no fan wanted or expected. And with the deadline looming, it's not clear if Miami is gearing up for a big move or planning to stay put. They're not exactly set for a sell-off, nor are they in full buy mode to stack the roster for a deep playoff run. The Dolphins are in this middle ground, caught between building for the future and trying to get over the hump in the present. What will the Dolphins actually do? Should they go after someone to patch up weak spots, or just let the chips fall as they are? One area where a small move could help is in the trenches. A trade for a defensive tackle, edge rusher, or perhaps some offensive line help would make sense, assuming the price is right. A late-round pick for a solid role player who can bring some pressure or protect Tua Tagovailoa a bit more effectively. Not a crazy thought. But with a record like this, any move would be less about pushing for wins right now and more about improving the roster's depth, so when things do start clicking, the Dolphins have the pieces in place. On the flip side, there's no pressure to unload talent, and Miami isn't about to blow up the roster. This team has built something, and even if the season isn't panning out as hoped, there's a belief that they're better than their record shows. But if there's one guy who might be trade bait, it could be running back Jeff Wilson. Wilson's fourth on the depth chart, and Miami hasn't fully integrated him into the rotation. He could be a valuable piece for a team needing depth at running back, and he's just not getting the reps in Miami. Trading him wouldn't send any big message about the Dolphins' future plans. It would just open up a slot and maybe bring in a draft pick for the future. Simple as that. Looking back, the Dolphins have a bit of history with trades at this point in the season. 9 deadline deals in the past decade show that Miami isn't shy when it comes to making moves. They've brought in players like Chase Claypool, Bradley Chubb, and Jeff Wilson, each with varying levels of impact. Chubb even got a long-term deal, showing how serious Miami was about that addition. On the flip side, Miami has let go of players like Chase Edmonds, Jakeem Grant, Isaiah Ford, Kenyon Drake, and Jay Ajayi, guys who had some potential but, ultimately, weren't moving the needle enough for the Dolphins. But this season? There's a strong case to just hold steady. Not everyone is on board with a big trade move. Some voices, like Joe Shad, argue the Dolphins should avoid making any drastic changes. The reason? This team might be better than what their record says. Sometimes, the best move is no move, and that's especially true when there's belief within the organization that things can turn around. Head coach Mike McDaniels, a guy who is not one to make snap decisions or take risks without a plan, hinted at his trade deadline philosophy in a recent press conference. He spoke about his and general manager Chris Grier's belief in this team. They believe that, despite the struggles, there's something in this roster that just needs to get over the hump. McDaniels is convinced they have the potential to turn things around, even if it hasn't shown up in the win-loss column yet. To him, it's not about big, flashy moves, but about finding ways to unlock the potential they know is there. You can sense the faith he has, even if the record doesn't seem to justify it. But of course, Grier has a job to do: answer the phone, see what offers are out there, and be ready if something too good to pass up comes along. Grier is going to listen, that's his job, and if the right opportunity presents itself, he'll bring it to McDaniels. But as of now, McDaniels said there's been nothing real enough to act on. That's an interesting word choice, real. It tells you that maybe there's been talk, a few ideas tossed around, but nothing that's convinced them they need to shift gears. What's clear, though, is the confidence both Grier and McDaniels have in this roster. They see something in this team beyond what the standings reflect, a belief that's keeping them grounded, yet optimistic. They're not interested in selling off or making moves out of desperation. The conviction is there: this team has what it takes, even if it hasn't all come together yet. And that's how they're approaching every single day. The mentality? Trust the team, see if they can find a way through this tough patch, and, if something really worthwhile comes up, then consider it. But the focus is still internal, not external.